Hello everybody, this is Greg Gillum at Gregg's Vintage Workshop. Apologize if I'm a little out of breath, I just got through mowing my yard. Decided I want to come down here and try to get something done tonight, so we're going to work on this sardine can here tonight. As far as recapping it. So buckle your seat belts and hold on tight because I'm going to desolder this thing and remove it, and we're going to see if we can get it open and find some caps for it. Let me get my soldering iron all plugged in and hot so we can melt some solder off and get started. I was looking tonight, I see my epoxy all set up nice right through here like we put in the other day on the last video. It seeped in there like I wanted it to. Everything's nice and sealed now, so these wires aren't going anywhere, moving around that transformer. So we should be in pretty good shape. Now, I took a photo of this. I typically would draw a schematic of it, but I took a photo of it. And these wires are pretty identifiable, right? I mean, this one's pretty yellow. I can tell it goes right here. This one goes over here, and that's pretty obvious. It's kind of a grayish. This one's gray too, but it would be a stretch to try and get it over there. And then this one's black with the yellow tracer. I think we'll be fine. So I'm not worrying about marking these. Normally I would do that, but I'm not going to do it tonight because I think it's fairly obvious. So there's that one. Pretty good glob on this one, so it might take a little bit to get it come loose. Maybe. There we go, there's that one. I got to get me a better soldering iron. I want to get one of those nice wellers that heat up so quickly and do a nice job. I'm kind of a tightwad when it comes to stuff like that though, so keep hoping one of these days somebody get me one for Christmas or something, and then I don't have to spend the money for it. Alright, so those are off. Turn the soldering iron off. I need to find my nut driver, which should be the same one I had out, and see if we can get these nuts off of here. Make sure you guys are still on camera. I'm notorious for letting you guys go off camera and not knowing it. There's the nut. Now I just got to catch the screw. Got it. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to leave the screw sitting right there. This one's not going to be a little as easy because that screw is actually over my tuning condenser. I got to go get a magnet. Alright, let's see if we can get that out without dropping that screw. And get underneath there and get a hold of it. I think I got it. Alright. Alright, so here we go. So this is what is better known as a sardine can in these old sets. I can tell from the weight of it that it is tar block in there, and from the schematic I looked at, I think these are 0.1. I'll double check it though. I want to get it open, we'll get it out. I'm going to have to use a soldering iron to try and heat this solder and pry this up, because what they've done is they've soldered the edge of this tin right here, and I may have to just bite the bullet and fire up the Burns-O-Matic, but I'm going to try and see if I can kind of melt the solder here and scrape it off and get it started, and see what happens. I should probably have this over a vise and holding it in a vise, but I'm going to try it here and see what happens once my iron heats up. Get you guys a little better in the camera here. Yeah, I'll probably rub it off with the wire brush, and you know what? What's even better than that? What I should be using some of my solder wick. Let me grab some solder wick real fast. That'd be the easiest way to do this. Let's try and use some solder wick with it and see what we get. This isn't the solder wick I normally use. I have some other solder wick that I really like. It really sucks it up well, but I'm about out of it. So let's see what we get here. It may or may not work. Depends if I can get enough heat in here with this particular soldering iron. The other thing I could do is I could heat this up with my torch without this other tip, and I think I might try that if I can do it without burning anything up here. Let me see if I can figure out a better way to hold this where you guys can see it and where I can get it up close. Hold on a minute. Okay, I got a little makeshift thingy here to hold it. I'm going to just try the torch, see if we can get it to melt down and roll down some. It may or may not work. You guys will be the first to know, right? It's melting. Not as great as I'd like it to melt, but it's melting. You know, I'm wondering, maybe if I stood this thing up vertical and let gravity help me out, that might help. See what happens here. Do it like this. Looks like I got a roll of solder rolling down this thing. I get my solder sucker out. Maybe we can get a glob of that off of there. Maybe not. I don't know. See the smoke though, that's that tar in there. Obviously getting the tar nice and warm. I don't know if you guys can see that big old glob of solder there. My wife will be yelling down here shortly saying, "What are you burning up down there? I smell burning." And she'd be right, because that tar is melting, melting, melting. I should probably be doing this outside. Alright, I'm going to leave it there for the moment and see what I can do with that. See what I can do with this lid, if I can get that to open up a little bit. Set my smoke alarm off down here if I'm not careful. I do have a smoke alarm down here. I need to get where I can hold that thing. Let me grab, I got my pliers here. It may work. Let's see here. I see some separation going on there. I don't know if I'm holding that where you guys can see that or not, but there's some separation right there. So I may be able to get a screwdriver in there, a little screwdriver. Maybe, maybe not. Alright folks, I got it off. Wasn't easy. As you can see, I've, whoops, hit my camera. As you can see, I bent it a little bit, but it'll survive. It'll be alright. Nobody's going to see it. I'll polish it up, make it look good anyway. So, once I got it off, there's a paper film in there. And then we got this. So, I'm going to dig around a little bit here and see what we find besides gunk. See another one of these inside there. I'm sure that's where the leads are going to. Got to get this out, and then we will substitute some new caps. I said I've got to look at the values in schematic. Once I get this out, here it comes. Alright, so looks like we had two caps sandwiched together in there, that being one. One lead, this lead being grounded to the case. Obviously the other one is grounded to this side. It's nice to see some nice numbering from back in 1929. Isn't that something? Wow, pretty cool stuff. Alright, let's see. So we got another lead down here. This may be a multi-cap in this one cap, for it to have a lead here, one here, looks like a lead here, going here, and then we have the other cap that apparently has a lead going here and here. Alright. Probably get that to pull out if I heat it with my soldering iron. Get that soldering iron heated up. I'm going to put you guys on hold for a second because I'm going to go look at my schematic real fast. I don't have it on paper, I have it on the computer. I can't speak. These are the detector bypass caps. There's three of them in there. There's a 0.3 microfarad, a 0.002 microfarad, and a 0.075 microfarad. So we'll be substituting more modern day caps for this. I pulled the one out, I heated it right there, I pulled it out. Let's see if we can get this one out. There we go, there's that one. Ow! I just put my finger right on it. That wasn't too bright, was it? I'll pull this piece of paper out. Get to the other one. I'll get this all cleaned up nice. I get everything out of here. If I can keep from burning my hand again. All right. I'm gonna stick that thing right in my hand if I ain't careful. All right. There we have it. I need to get these cleaned up and get my caps in order, and we'll get it stuffed. So we have the cleaned up case. It cleaned up really nice. The sardine can, as you can see. Got all the solder out, all cleaned up. So I was out picking out my capacitors, and the original can had a 0.002, a 0.075, and a 0.3 in it capacitor. So what I'm planning on using is replace the 0.002. I'm going with what I have, and we can go a little bit larger. You don't want to go smaller, but you can go larger. So for my 0.002, I'm using a 0.0022. For my 0.3, I was going to use the 0.47. Unfortunately, with the 0.47, it's too fat for the body. Put it in there, it's sticking up higher. I don't know if you can see that or not, but it is just sticking up higher, that the plate, if I put the plate on there, it's going to make the plate not sit properly, as you can see there. See, so can't use the 0.47, but it just so happened I had a 0.5 in orange drop, 630 volt. So we're going to use this instead. This is the 0.5, and that obviously will fit in there very nice because it's flat. So that's what we're going to use there. And then for the 0.075, I'm going to just take it on up to a 0.1. So the 0.075 will become a 0.1, the 0.3 will become a 0.5, and the 0.002 will become a 0.0022. So let me get those in place in the sardine can, and we'll take a look at that. So I got a mess on my bench, as you can see right here. I just got through unwrapping the one combination capacitor. The reason I did that is because there's conflicting information. You guys can see this. Hopefully I ain't got too bad of a glare, but there's conflicting information on this particular sardine can. So for the detector bypass, there's one schematic that shows it this way, with point D and P and the two middle caps connected together going to ground. Then there's another one like this that was in an update at one point for the same model, and in this one they have the 250 PF cap going to P, connecting to D with the 0.3, and then the 0.3 going to ground. This is the one that I've got, and I had to unwrap this capacitor in order to see that. So if I can get this in screen. As I was unwrapping, this was the first capacitor. And obviously it came out when I unwrapped. And it also had this wrapping that attached right here on the ground. This is the ground right here. This is one. So this is the tie point from that one to the second capacitor, and then this is the other tie point for the second capacitor. So we basically are replicating this one with this setup. There's one ground that was on the one cap, which was the first one that came off, which was tied into that one, which goes over to the other post P. So I made a big mess trying to figure that out, but I needed to figure it out because I didn't want to put it together wrong, and when I had two possibilities, I wasn't sure. So that's what we did. Let me clean up this mess and we'll continue on. Got these in there. I haven't soldered them yet. I'm going to snip those leads and solder them, but I wanted to show you this. So if we look at this right here, I'm not sure how far down you can see that. I'm going to bring it up a little bit. So right now I'm inverted, as you can see. So if I flip this around, it looks backwards, but it's not, because this is viewed from the top of the can like this. Okay, so keeping that in mind, I'll flip that around like that, and you can see I've got the 0.3 running to D. I've got the other end of the 0.3 running to ground. I've got the 250 running to D as well, and then other end going to P. And then the other one, the 0.1, it was originally the 0.075, going between M1 and M2. So this should be correct. I'm going to go ahead and solder these up. I will be right back. Okay, so there it is, all soldered up. Soldered the ends up here too. I broke those loose. That's where they had the original caps grounded. They didn't have the cap grounded here, but it doesn't really matter. That's the way I did mine. So everything's in there now, and all I got to do is put the other cover back on. I've decided, I think what I'm going to do with that is I'll probably put it on with some epoxy. I've got some epoxy that I can mix up and put that in cover on there with some epoxy. Thought about just using some super glue. I don't know, I'll think about it. We'll see. Alright folks, I got it done. What I wound up doing was just putting a solder joint on each corner. Right here I did this whole little seam right here across, and then a solder joint here, solder joint there, here, and here. And that's all it's going to take to hold that. It's going to sit in there like that anyway. That should be it. That should be fine. So there's one sardine can done and one to go. So I also bought some of this premium metallic. I think I'm going to go ahead and spray this with, just to make it look nice. Not that it matters. The one thing I do have to make sure of when I do that is I have to make sure I keep the bottom surface here clean, so I get a good connection to the chassis, because this is chassis grounded. So, but that one's done. Another one to go. So here's the first can, all soldered, installed, and soldered back in there. As you can see, the other can's out. And here it is right here. Got 4.1 microfarad capacitors in there, all tied together at the ground there, ground point. All soldered on. I'm getting ready to paint, put the bottom on this one, paint it, and we'll stick it in, and then we'll move on to the next step. Okay, so the sardine cans both completed. Got this one done. This was the first one we did. It's all soldered back in place. This was the second one I did. Got it all soldered back in place. This one had the 4.1 microfarad caps in it. this right here had a twisted wire, if you remember correctly from the, I think it was the first video or second video, when I did the local long distance switch, which by the way at the time I called it the tone switch, but I hadn't looked that closely at the schematic yet, and it turns out it's the local distance switch. And that twisted wire actually was a what they would call a gimmick capacitor, and it went from this distance switch up here to the AF sardine can here, and it actually used a the wire was basically to mimic a picofarad capacitor of about 280, well basically 28 picofarads. I didn't have a 280, so I put a 250 in here, or a 25, so hopefully that's close enough. But that's what that one is right there, and then I attached it to my wire. I guess I could have wound up another wire, but I decided to just go ahead and put the cap in there instead. So that's what that is right there. So those are done, and that'll pretty much conclude this video for the sardine can rebuild. Next video we'll be tackling the filter condenser can, which is the big one on the top. It has a pile of condensers in that. So until that video, thank you for watching. Gregg's Vintage Workshop.